What's up, Nowstalgia Pod, coming at you. I am Pat Sheehan with my co-host Dave Martinson. We are bringing you your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. But Dave, before we jump into it, tell all of our fans, what should they do to support the podcast?
Oh, Pat, I'm glad you asked. Please go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod
Stay plugging.
to find all of our links. Most importantly, YouTube, where we would really appreciate if you subscribed on YouTube. Big help. Also, you can find us on iTunes there, our best songs of 2017 Spotify playlist. It's all there, soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod. So help us out if you could, because it really helps.
Yeah, and you can also follow us on Twitter at Marty Swagger, at Sheeny World Peace, and at Nostalgia Pod to follow the pod. We've had some excellent tweets done by your boy Dave, who also now has access to a 280 character tweet if he chooses. How do you feel with all that power, man?
Yeah. Also, the Nowstalgia Pod account got the 280 as well. So,
but guess who didn't?
You didn't get it?
No,
I'm surprised the pod account got it because it's less followers than the personal account. So
right, yeah.
Wow, I assumed you got it. I thought everyone got it.
No, it's funny. I keep checking and it still says 140. And at this point, I think they're just like, you need to up your tweet game. So they're just trying to motivate me, keep me hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hate on it, but it's so funny because some of the people that I saw that got it, I bet Chris, our friend Chris, definitely got it.
Damn, that's just stupid to give it to him. You wouldn't know what to tweet for 280.
Well, he's going to talk about stuff, but he's not going to name what he's talking about. There's going to be no nouns. It's going to be just, wow, Criminal Minds was crazy this week, or I can't believe you did that.
Like Eric Bledsoe. I don't want to be here.
Yeah, but at least Eric Bledsoe, it's like people care,
Exactly.
Anyways, so we're going to be talking a lot of Disney news. We're going to be talking about Sam Smith's new album and Thor Ragnarok, which, spoiler alert, we really enjoyed. But why don't we start with Disney LA Times? So this is a story that kind of drops late yesterday afternoon, was it? Or maybe early afternoon?
Well, it resolved yesterday. I think it happened late last week and kind of boiled over the weekend.
Mm-hmm. And that was that they basically had put a ban on the LA Times because they had been doing some investigative journalism into Disney's dealings and
Anaheim.
Yeah, in Anaheim. I don't know. Can you give us a little more background on this story? I don't feel like I'm not explaining it.
Right. So the whole controversy came up because Disney revoked the LA Times, a very popular, successful newspaper. They lost their press screening, so they couldn't see Thor Ragnarok in advance to have a review prep. So as soon as the embargo goes up, they can post the review like everyone else, get their fair share of clicks, and everyone's happy. That's kind of when everyone knew it happened, because that's the LA Times like, hey, this is why we don't have our Thor review ready, because we didn't get to see it in advance because Disney is blocking us. And yeah, it was a very long story that I think posted last month about Disney's relationship with the city of Anaheim. Obviously, that's where Disneyland is located. Mm-hmm. That's their second most profitable park after Disney World in Orlando. And I skimmed the piece. Read a lot of the beginning anyway. There's a lot to it. It's a good read. And actually, this whole scandal brought a lot more attention to the piece, which is funny. No one was really talking about it until this happened. And not to go into the piece, but it's really just about how Disney probably could do more to help the city. They get a lot of cutbacks and stuff. That being said, they do drive a huge part of the Anaheim economy, so you can see both ways. But it does seem like Disney could be doing more to help out the city. Anyway, so what happened Monday and Tuesday was that all these other outlets like the New York Times, the AV Club, they're like, hey, we're not going to review any Disney movies in solidarity with the LA Times until they lift the ban. And then Ava DuVernay, who has a Disney movie coming out next year, said that she was, she supported everyone, which was kind of big. And then Tuesday morning, the LA Film Critics Association, New York Film Critics Circle, Boston Society of Film Critics, and the National Society of Film Critics said they would not consider any Disney films for their end of year awards, and that voting was coming up in a few weeks.
Good.
And then later Tuesday, Disney lifted the ban, and I think it's a sign of a free press. But yeah, I mean, Disney, as we'll get to the next news about becoming more of a conglomerate, some evil empire shit going on with the LA Times. But it worked out because everyone stood up.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially as there's been a lot of political I don't know, misguidings around what is news and what is fake news, so to speak,
Yeah.
and just how the
Attacking
media
and stuff.
Yeah, exactly how the media is portrayed. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that the media does that people don't like, but this is something that I don't think should be accepted by anybody. Is basically putting a ban on people getting access to something based on not liking a story. I mean, if you're doing something and it's brought to light, or you don't like the way it's written about, give an interview and give your side of it. But just basically revoking access to something pretty much just says that, one, you're being a child, and two, it makes it seem like there's more to hide. Like there's really something to what they're reporting and that they're actually on the right track. So I don't know, Disney, that not such a great move on their part, but I mean, they're huge. I don't see it really affecting their bottom line in any sense.
No, I don't think so.
But what about this Fox 21st Century Fox possible purchase? It wouldn't be purchasing all of Fox Media, but particularly the movie IP, I think, is a really interesting part of it.
Yeah, so obviously because of antitrust laws and monopoly stuff, whatnot, they wouldn't be acquiring Fox a channel because you can't have two broadcast networks. They already have ABC, and they wouldn't be getting any of the news stuff or any of the sports stuff, FS1, anything like that.
I wish they would get the news stuff.
Right. Yeah. So it would just be 21st Century Fox. Obviously, we know the famous title card with the dun-dun-duns,
and lights and
but right. So this would be kind of just an acquisition of all their projects and all that IP, and there's a lot of distribution rights, really. And the reasoning, this was reported by, I believe, CNBC, and it kind of went into that Fox thought, looked ahead, and you really need scale in media to succeed, and they really didn't see any room for Fox to make any more acquisitions or really improve. When you see the several billion-dollar budgets that Netflix and soon Apple will be throwing into the mix, Fox, thought that they should kind of condense what they do as a brand, and they could kind of get out of the entertainment space. That's the thinking. Right. A lot of people are like, oh, Disney, they get everything, blah, blah, blah. But look at it from the way Fox is thinking. It kind of makes economical sense. But what's exciting about this, of course, is that they get Disney, reportedly, they were in talks. They're not talking right now. It hasn't happened or anything. But if this was to happen, and that it got this far to us, I would say it's, very, very likely, I'd imagine. Anyway,
yeah,
they would be getting all that crazy IP, so it would be really exciting.
Yeah, you tweeted this out from our account, but Disney really has been acquiring a lot of like movie IP. Pixar in 2006, Marvel in 2009, Lucasfilm 2012, and 21st Century Fox possibly this year and next. It's kind of crazy to think. Basically, it's like you talked about how there's like antitrust laws, things like that, but it's becoming like as close to a monopoly as I think that they'll allow to have, especially in one industry.
Yeah, I mean, so there's still all those other big studios, like Paramount and whatnot. So it's not like Disney owns the whole movie space. And again, like all the streamers and tech giants are coming in to fill the space. So, I don't really see a problem with that. But obviously what's exciting is all the IP Disney could potentially get. Avatar, Alien, Independence Day, Planet of the Apes, Predator. But X-Men. What's most exciting, of course, would be X-Men and Fantastic Four finally getting back into the movie rights, going back to Disney, where they could join the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point. So that obviously would be the most exciting stuff, because we haven't had a good Fantastic Four movie, and the X-Men films have been up and down. And so, I mean, imagine, one day the X-Men and the Avengers meet up years down the line. It's exciting that it could finally happen. I mean, not that long ago, they blew our minds when they loaned out Spider-Man from Sony. Now they might potentially just fucking buy Fox. Like, it's quite the step up.
It's actually just looking through some of the movies that 21st Century Fox has the rights to. There's a lot of like kids movies in here, And I think that that's actually probably the sphere where I could see them having the biggest impact. Because I mean, I think some of these are pretty good,
Yeah.
but like Disney just does kids movies so well that they could really take a lot of this stuff to like the next level and really
Sure.
just like monetize it too so well. Like looking here, it's like Ice Age. I never see like Ice Age toys or like what was the one with Alec Baldwin as the baby that came out recently? Like Baby Boss, or whatever. Like that's kind of stuff that Disney can really, I think, expand upon. Like X-Men, there's a lot of merchandise that's built around that just because it was an institution before it even became movies.
Yeah.
So no, it's definitely exciting.
And also, you'd imagine that if Disney did get control of the X-Men film property again, they would probably build up the X-Men comics line again, because in a kind of a, again, like an evil empire Disney kind of way, when they realized that, they knew it a while, but they kind of shrifted the X-Men in the comics and didn't really have that many books going because they didn't have movies for them. So now that they could probably build that back up. But also, we talked about the Disney streaming service that's coming out in 2019, and this is a whole slew of movies that would just add to the appeal of that service. So it would definitely be huge if it happened. And also, Disney would get FX and National Geographic channels as well.
Interesting. So that means that they would get Atlanta and a lot of other really good shows.
Love FX. So yeah,
Donald Glover going to be basically owned by being Han Solo's sidekick as Lando, and then they're going to be producing his TV show. Yeah, Simba, crazy. By the way, people were going nuts on Twitter about the final Lion King cast.
I mean, they clearly don't listen to at Nowstalgia Pod because most of that cast we had already talked about.
I know they gotta stay up with it, but
Beyonce was the kind of the big one that we had known.
The Queen Bee. Anyways, let's jump to the Sam Smith album. So this is Sam Smith's sophomore album. It's titled "The Thrill of It All," and it's got a picture of Sam Smith with a new haircut on the cover. What do you think about the new do?
Meh.
Yeah. I mean, he's a weird looking dude.
He is. He's also kind of a I don't like him as a personality because he's just said a bunch of dumb shit. Like he's not that smart. He's not that woke. It's okay.
Yeah,
but he isn't.
He's also pretty young.
He means well. I don't hate him, but he said some dumb shit.
I don't know.
He's 25, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like he kind of goes away, which he's just not.
Exactly.
He's not that big of a celebrity at this point, which is okay. He's a great singer. And he shows off his pipes on this album. I mean, he probably does falsetto better than anybody else in the game right now. But what was your overall take from this album?
Yeah, so I mean, going in, this is only his second album, and like you said, he does go away as a famous person, but he also very quickly became a fucking huge pop star. That's the reason we're talking about him. I mean, we're not huge fans of this kind of soulful pop music in general.
Right.
But I mean, In the Lonely Hour, his debut album, won Best Pop Vocal Album. It was nominated for Album of the Year. That's the year Beck won. I mean, it's 4 times platinum in the US alone, 12 times platinum across the globe, 7 times in the UK where he's from. I mean, he's an absolute force. And shout out Disclosure. That's where he came out. We love Disclosure. Right. But so going into this, Sam Smith with all the songwriters, all the producers at his disposal, all these resources, I was kind of hoping that it would kind of be more of a statement album, because In the Lonely Hour, you have Stay With Me, and
I'm not the only one.
Not the only one. It's 2 big hits, but as an album, it's not much to talk about. And this album is kind of the same boat, which I thought was really disappointing for me, because I was hoping you kind of have more of a cohesive project. But I think lyrically, it's kind of it's kind of like a middle school lyrical content. Like here's how I feel, and I'm gonna write a whole paragraph about it. There's nothing left to your imagination.
Right. Honestly, it's funny. I had to listen to it twice, but that was only because I got through 6 songs and I was driving when I was listening to it, and I was like, this is just too fucking boring.
Dangerous.
And that's the thing, is for someone who has the pipes that he has and such a unique voice, to kind of just be so bland is incredibly disappointing. He has so much potential, and I feel like really this became this is almost like in the Lonely Hour Part 2, just very boring, very similar material, and nothing that really jumped out at me. And that's crazy to say with someone who has the strength of his voice. Like when you can reach those notes, you should be like have like a Whitney Houston, like I will always love you moment in almost every album.
And that's the thing too. Like he's a vocal driven artist. You know, like Kelly Clarkson kind of paved the way for this a while ago. Like I said, Whitney, but like Adele, vocal driven artist. Why does she stand out? Because she's immaculate songwriting. Demi Lovato, vocal artist, great song production, a lot of variety. But Sam Smith, it's just very bland. And I think the songs I liked the most were the songs that had additions to him. Too Good at Goodbyes, the lead single, and then Nothing Left for You, both have this awesome background chorus, which really makes the song feel like I'm in church, but like really, really, like, you know, soulful, really lively almost, which, you know, when he's on his own, it's just not like that.
Yeah, and there's what's the song where he has a guest vocalist on it? There's only one. I'm trying to think. I didn't write it down, but it's a female. I think her name is like Serba or something along those lines. Seba. That was the one that stood out the most to me because just it was a different sound. I think, like, even though I didn't feel like the song was an excellent song by any means, it was something where I was like, oh, it's different. Like he's bringing in someone else to sing with him, someone that brings a totally different vibe to the song. I didn't hate that song. Too Good at Goodbyes. It's a good song. It's a hit. People will be playing it, but for you know, I'm so disappointed because I was like, Taylor Swift is going to dominate the end of the year. Then I was like, oh, Sam Smith's dropping an album. He's going to challenge her. Taylor Swift songs have been disappointing too, but I still think she's going to dominate the end of the year just because her star is that much bigger, and this album can't challenge the power of her celebrity.
Exactly. Like Taylor Swift reputation already has 400,000 pre-orders. And even though all the lead singles are disappointing on the charts, and Too Good at Goodbyes is like top 15 right now still. But yeah, I mean, I don't really. This is not going to last, you know. I mean, yeah, I'll probably get some Grammy attention a little bit, but I got to shout out the song "Him" just because I think that's a coming out song that'll probably resonate with gay teens, and I mean, obviously, you know, I can really speak to that, but I think that song has been getting a lot of well-deserved praise. But yeah, overall, disappointing given the, you know, resources and people he could have around him. He had a chance to. He had no reason not to make something better, I guess how I put it.
I almost want him to find someone that he likes to sing with and make like a collaboration album in a way, someone that can push him to challenge himself as an artist at this point, because I feel like he is in danger of moving forward and just being like, this is my lane and this is all I can do. But I mean, this is someone who broke out with an EDM song. You know, it's like you can be more than just this amazing voice that, like, you can actually be a real artist. I don't know.
Not that there much of similarity for singing, but I just kind of thought of like the career of like Josh Groban. You know, like, no one really like thinks of him in high regard. He's just kind of liked, you know. And this promise of Sam Smith, who's still a young man, like we expect better. You know? Exactly.
Especially for somebody who I think a lot of people after his last album were like, this guy could be the male Adele moving forward. And
absolutely. So
Adele has never put out an album this bad.
No, not a chance.
But something we really enjoyed, and it's funny because to get a little behind the scenes, I haven't been able to make it to the movies. That's why we're recording this a little bit later. And Dave was like adamant that we could not record this week until I saw this movie. So Dave forced me to see it. I'm glad he did. Thor Ragnarok, a movie that I think I wasn't sure about. The trailers looked really good, had a much different vibe than most of the Marvel and especially the Thor films have had. It was directed by Taika Waititi. Did I say that correct?
Yep, from New Zealand.
Damn, I can't believe I nailed it. Who actually, I can't wait to talk about him as a character in the movie because
Korg.
Korg was just amazing. But what was your expectation for this movie?
Yeah, so we talked about the trailer, you know, ways back when it dropped. You can check that on YouTube where we have all our breakouts. Check out our Nostalgia Reacts playlist where you'll find our trailer reactions. So, you know, we saw this trailer. It kind of came out of left field. Like, yeah, we knew the Hulk would be in it. We knew Jeff Goldblum was cast. We didn't know that it was going to be this funny. And the trailer
Right.
immediately set off that vibe. This was, just much more comedic, a much looser film.
Lighter.
And yeah, exactly. And which is such a welcome thought before we even saw it, given the first two Thor movies are two of the more disliked or ignored MCU movies, because while they do some of the heavy lifting in terms of establishing the Thor, Asgard stuff, the movies themselves are kind of dull. So yeah, that was a very exciting idea. Then we see this movie and it just delivers. I mean, it's 2 hours of nonstop fun. I think at the very worst, you see this movie and you have a good time, even if you're not the biggest Marvel fan.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see the trailer and you have Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song, which, just a side note, I think if you put Led Zeppelin into almost anything at this point, it makes it more fun. Like, there was a scene at the end of Mindhunters. I'm sure we'll touch on like a season recap or thoughts on it in some respect. But the season end of that uses in the Light by Led Zeppelin, and I've been like thinking about that scene like since I watched it. It was just so perfect. So then how prominent that Led Zeppelin was in this. I mean, even from the first scene, yeah, fucking awesome. And it sets the tone right away, just by the way that Thor breaks down the wall with the audience, the third wall with the audience, or fourth wall with the audience, and he's talking about this is where I'm at, and I bet you're wondering how I got to here. And it's really it sets the tone right away, and it's such a different direction, as you said, for Thor, which is very actually almost like self-serious, which is interesting for I don't know, superhero that's like a god from another universe. It was a strange. I think that this was the right move. So I guess just to kind of break down the movie, what were the parts that stand out in your mind or that you really think are important to break down?
Yeah, well, I think Chris Hemsworth actually kind of talked about this before the movie came out. They make Thor as a character much more likable and charming. I mean, we've seen Chris Hemsworth act well in Rush, and he was actually funny in the Ghostbusters movie, one of the few good parts to it. And, Thor in the Avengers movies and the Thor movies, he's kind of been almost like a straight man. Like, there's been comedic elements with him and Hulk, but he's kind of been dull. And he was no one's really favorite character. People just kind of like Hemsworth. That was kind of it. So this kind of really just totally reinvigorated the whole, Thor brand. And I think now people really, really like Thor. And I think this is huge because, as we're heading towards Avengers Infinity War, you want people to care about Thor because, we assume a lot of stuff's going to happen there, and maybe he becomes a pillar for the universe moving forward. But either way, I think one of the most important things that happened was that they totally reinvigorated the Thor character.
Yeah, as you think about Thor and they're moving towards Infinity Wars and bringing all of these characters together, Thor is probably going to have to be one that's going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting to get like the Guardians of the Galaxy involved and pull in some of these heroes who are out in space. So he's a really essential character, and moving in this direction makes so much sense, especially as, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is going to be Iron Man forever. There was already rumors that Chris Evans didn't want to be Captain America anymore. So you're really moving in a direction of who's going to be the guard in a way. And I think Hemsworth could do that easily, especially with the way that the character moved. Probably one of the scenes that I found most endearing was when him and Hulk he was trying to convince Hulk to help him out, and they're sitting down. He's like, we're the same, you and I. And Hulk, Hulk's like, no, Hulk is fire, you're water. And he goes, no, I'm fire too. Yeah, he's like, I know, but Hulk's raging fire.
Thor smoldering.
Just so good, and the way that they played off each other was excellent. I also just, I guess I'll talk about now. Yeah, the director as Korg was so freaking funny.
Oh man. I mean, shout out Taiko in general, because you listen to him do any press about the movie, he actually gives Marvel a lot of credit for being very hands off about the shoot, which is the old Disney Marvel Studios, obviously not the case. Joss Whedon and Edgar Wright can tell you about that. So the fact that he ran like an open loose shoot playing music, and they were riffing on the script, and it really looks like the whole cast was having a good time, and obviously nonstop jokes. But then to top it all off, he's voicing this absolutely hilarious breakout character.
Right.
You know, for crying out loud, he introduces himself with a rock paper scissors joke. Like, and you can't even argue it at this point. The MCU Marvel is at its best when it's comedic.
Yes.
You know, the best movies are funny. Guardians, Spider-Man: Homecoming,
right.
Robert Downey Jr. You know, I mean, the best stuff is when they're lighter and funny. And Taika brought a nice fresh take on everything and got to get on the action himself.
Right. Well, you know, actually, that's a really great point about the movies being best when they're funny. Because if you even think about where this IP started, it's with comic books. In comic books, I mean, some of the most well-known ones are like Logan or The Killing Joke, some very self-serious ones. But for the most part, comic books are supposed to be fun. Like these worlds are supposed to be enjoyable and funny and lighthearted for the most part. And it seems strange that it almost like took them this long to really figure that out. But they've been incorporating more and more into the films.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that it took them this long to figure it out so much as that Marvel, like, they earned this. You know, they put in such hard work laying all the groundwork. And Taika actually shouts out the first two Thor movies. He's like, hey, you guys built up Loki for me and told everyone what the Bifrost was, you know? Like, he just got to come in with his crayons and have fun in Asgard. He didn't have to explain what Asgard was.
True.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel in general. I mean, you look at like Black Panther's next movie coming out. Like, again, that's still kind of mind blowing. But they got this point. You know, they were able to take a calculated risk and get weird with Thor, one of the most important characters they have. And you know, I think you're speaking about comic books. I mean, one of the most exciting things about this movie when we learned more about it was that they were taking parts of Planet Hulk, and Planet Hulk was one of the most famous Hulk storylines in the mid 2000s, and we see a lot of it on film. You know, he's on a faraway planet and becomes a famous gladiator. And what was so important about Planet Hulk as a comic was that it was not a Bruce Banner story. It was a Incredible Hulk story. And I think we got a lot of that. Like, we got some great moments as the Hulk being Hulk, you know, before he became Banner. So, I mean, anywhere you look, I think this movie is just a resounding success.
Yeah, and especially I think with the villain. Like, shout out Kate Blanchett for being freaking OG, like, badass in this, because like she plays it so well, like, as kind of likable and kind of hateable at the same exact time. Yes. And you know, I also think it was, you know, touching on like the family aspects that I think a lot of people like to tune into, like about her basically being cast off, and that there was secrets, and how that impacted how Thor and Loki understood their dad. And I mean, it wasn't brought up too much in the movie, but it was somewhat. And then how it pitted like family against each other was very interesting. You know, I also think one of the things that I liked most about this movie was it brought in characters for like, and everybody got their moment to shine. Like Doctor Strange, you know, you talk about how Marvel really earned this. Like Doctor Strange's 10 minutes in this is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so much fun. And like, especially when you see them going from place to place, and Thor has the beer and he just keeps like falling into things because he's so disoriented.
Right.
Just like little things like that, and like how it all makes sense of why he like even like took Loki in the first place and put him in that constant falling on a third dimension. It's really cool, like, to see all these little moments kind of pop up, and it made sense. And that was actually one of the things that, as someone who's seen most of the movies, I can follow these movies, but I brought my girlfriend Julianne, who didn't even really like Thor before, and she left saying that was the most fun I've had at one of these superhero movies. And she said, and I could follow it. Like, it made a lot of sense, which I was like, oh, so for someone that has a hard time following these things, for this to be that simple is a really good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the Doctor Strange scene, I think I enjoyed. I thought it was funny. And you know, I mean, is it extraneous? Yeah, probably. You don't need it in the film, but that's fine. Marvel's got to the point where they can pull off that scene. It doesn't impact the movie. Just like Robert Downey Jr. didn't, you know, hurt Homecoming. And you know, I think Hela, you said, like, I mean, Hela, did she have some exposition dialogue, just kind of talking to Scourge, Karl Urban's character's kind of explaining stuff? Sure. But overall, she kind of did what she needed to do in the movie, and was, I think, lively enough on screen that it was fine. And I thought it was, I mean, I couldn't help but think of Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith when Hela shows up and she kills the Warriors 3, who were in the first 2 Thor movies and actually had some bigger parts to play, and she just kind of like kills them like really fast. And I was like, oh wait, that's like when Mace Windu shows up to Palpatine's office, and Palpatine immediately kills the 3 other Jedi Masters with Mace. I was like, wow, like, I had flashbacks, PTSD from that. But yeah, I mean, killing those guys off, having Odin die, and then Asgard itself going away. I mean, we kind of expected that given the Ragnarok name storyline, but again, it's kind of setting the table to move the universe forward. Because I mean, let's be real, we weren't going to spend more time doing these solo Thor movies in Asgard, So like we had our fun, and we're moving it on. I thought it worked so well, and the fact that it was so funny just kind of made the fact that it was a annihilation story much more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I felt like there was just really good chemistry with the whole like cast, and like you said, it's something that they've earned and built up. But especially between Thor and Loki, which I think there's always been, but this was the most they've gotten to be like together playing off each other. And Hiddleston is just like electric.
I mean, he's excellent.
Yeah. You mentioned Homecoming, and this is really interesting. So those are probably the 2 Marvel movies that, I mean, they're the only 2 that have come out this year, correct?
And Guardians too.
And Guardians, right? So they're actually batting 3 for 3 because I thought those were all really great movies. Out of those 2, though, because I don't think Guardians is in this discussion, which 2 movies are more important to the franchise moving forward? Like, which one is more important?
That's a great question. It's tough, I mean, because on one hand, no one cared about Thor, so the fact that we tied off the Asgard loose end wasn't that big of a deal, like this is, if you think about the Thor Ragnarok, it's pretty inconsequential, it's just getting Thor and friends ready to show up for Infinity War. That's really all this happens, Then Homecoming is, I think, more important because it's a solo movie, not an origin movie, which was great about it, but we reestablished Spider-Man and made him so immediately likable again, joining back in the MCU. So I would say Homecoming is more important, but I mean, you could go either way because neither one is super consequential.
Right.
Neither one is Civil War or Avengers. So, it's an interesting thought.
I agree with you, though. I think Homecoming is more important because, one, you get Tom Holland as someone to basically build these movies off of moving forward as a legitimate star for them.
Yes.
But Thor Ragnarok is so important because it allows them to continue to be weird with these movies, which is what we really want. I mean, we want them to hit on the main things. We want to see the characters we want to see them doing things together, but to be able to take risks and more chances and see that it works and people respond well to them doing different things is really exciting, especially because like I've never even heard of Taika before. And now he's somebody that I'm like, I like to see this guy, take a shot at some other like films in moving forward, like especially franchises or things like that. Because it seems like he has a really fun perspective on making movies.
Yeah, I mean, he has some popular movies. I think it's what's it called? Comes in the Shadows. I forget. He had some movies that got some indie love, but no blockbusters yet. But I think he was actually attached to doing Akira next.
Oh,
he hasn't signed on or anything, but that would be huge, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, shout out to him. And I thought about this as soon as I saw Ragnarok. I was like, is 2017 the best Marvel Cinematic Universe year? You have Guardians 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. The only other year that I think compares is 2014, which is The Winter Soldier and Guardians 1. And a lot of people probably have Winter Soldier and Guardians 1 above all the movies this year. I could see it either way, but I think these are the 2 best years, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah, I would put it behind just because Winter Soldier and Guardians 1 are just fantastic films. But these 2 are, I mean, these 3, Guardians 2 for some reason I keep forgetting about, but man, these 2 movies are really, really good. Like, it's sure. Marvel just stays winning, dude. Like, I don't know. I don't see anything that could derail them at this point.
I mean, and we look ahead to next year. We have Black Panther in February, Infinity War.
Oh my God. Dude, Black Panther's trailer came on, and I was like on the edge of my seat.
With that theater sound too. Yeah, hell yeah. Infinity War is in May, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man 2 comes out in July. So
okay, cool.
And then 2019 we have Captain Marvel, whatever they call Infinity War 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming 2, whatever that's called.
Mhm.
And then 2020, all that's attached to there is Guardians 3 without an actual date. So, I'd imagine probably by the end of 2019 you get the big announcement again for what the Phase 4 movies are, and with Captain Marvel and Guardians going on, and Thor again, like we're getting weird, and that's what's so exciting, that these movies are so successful that we can get so weird. So
definitely,
that's where we're at.
Just to kind of pull out of this discussion a bit, but keep it on movies. The trailers that I got were Star Wars Episode 8.
Yes, I finally saw the trailer.
Yeah, what did you think?
It was good. I mean, I didn't feel like it revealed anything. I don't know. There's that whole hoopla of it spoiling stuff, and I was like, no, it didn't. It's fine.
I don't think so either. And then Black Panther, and then Justice League.
Justice League, and you're like, oh no, please.
Right. I know. Oh, that was the thing but every time I turned Julianne, I was like, I want to see this. It's like, I want to see this. And Justice League, I was like, I'm gonna see this.
I have to see this.
Right.
I mean, Ezra Miller looks funny. I'm hoping he's a big help, And
Jason Momoa, it looks like he might be pretty badass in this. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting for Justice League. DC, the pressure's on because Marvel can't miss right now. So they need something to compete.
Like I've said this before, Justice League, unfortunately, was made, like the production of it, like DC post Wonder Woman is so exciting. Then we have Justice League, which feels like a pre-Wonder Woman movie, even though it's coming out afterwards.
Right.
So, I mean, if the Flash movie and Aquaman comes out next year, if the Aquaman strikes out, then I'd really be worried. But Justice League, I'm almost giving it a pass. I'm like, it's probably not going to be great, but again, I want to see what's next after that.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll probably start wrapping up there. Any more thoughts on Thor before we go?
Yeah, I actually had one last question for you. We have to talk about the Chris Wars post Ragnarok. How do you feel about Chris Pine, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, and Chris Pratt? Where's your ranks at?
It's funny. I was watching some of Moneyball last night, and I was like, wow, Chris Pratt, it's Scott Hatteberg. That's kind of where he started off with like big movies. I think Chris Pine actually right now holds the belt, which is crazy because I don't think I've ever really considered him as like the belt holder, but he definitely does. But Hemsworth is up there.
Yeah, I think Pine overall is just in the best movies, and he does a lot of variety. Like Star Trek Beyond was dope, but he was in Wonder Woman,
Right.
It's gonna be in this Netflix he's gonna be Robert the Bruce, the Scottish independence guy for a Netflix show, which sounds cool. And then like Pratt, we like Pratt, he's enjoyable, but he's only been his one thing in Guardians and Jurassic World, and then Passengers, obviously. We don't need to talk about that. And then Evans also doesn't seem to act a whole lot.
I don't know.
In like big, he acts, but like he's not in anything notable in a while, besides like Snowpiercer, everything else is just him as Captain America, which is just a straight man. So I think Hemsworth, I mean, if he was in the Heart of the Sea, that Moby Dick movie, which kind of struck out. So he hasn't had a whole lot of success away from Thor, but we know he can do it. So like I think his stock's definitely up, but I still have Chris Pine number one.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like if you had asked me that like 4 years ago, 3 years ago when Guardians 1 came out, I would have been like, it's gonna be Chris Pratt. He's gonna hold the belt.
It'll be Indiana Jones. He'll be Nathan Drake.
I know, and then he's fallen off. I don't know. We'll see. It changes so quickly. They just need one good movie come out and just probably flip around. But anyways, as Dave said at the beginning, subscribe to the pod. Go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a rating and review on iTunes. Tweet at us at nostalgiapod, at Martin Swagger, at Sheeny World Peace. Show us off your 280 characters if you got it.
Yeah, that's. I don't know. See, I think if you're tweeting at someone or replying, 280 is fine. Right. Just evergreen tweets. No, keep it brief.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I've seen some people abusing their power already, and it makes me very discouraged for the future of Twitter.
I'm just getting.
It's gonna be fine, but
because like I'm seeing like 210 character tweets. It's like a 1.5. I'm like, can you just do what you used to do and think a little harder? Keep it
Right.
smaller. Like, come on.
Bolmani Jones today said that he thinks Twitter has helped make him a more concise writer, which I thought was really interesting.
I 100% agree, because it takes away your passive voice, because passive voice takes up more characters, and obviously that's horrible writing and your adverbs and stuff. So yeah, I think trying to think of tweets actually makes you think about writing in a positive way.
Yeah, definitely. What do we got for next week? What's on the docket?
We got Taylor Swift Reputation. If we can listen to it, it might not be available on streaming.
We can find find somewhere to download it.
I certainly ain't gonna purchase it, Taylor. I know that's all you care about is your money.
No,
but we'll chime in on Taylor Swift for sure. I saw a great Oscar movie called The Florida Project via MoviePass, which I am now a subscriber of. So we can talk about that at some point. Lady Bird comes out. I might actually see that this weekend as well, because that movie has 100% Rotten Tomatoes with like 90 reviews. It's Saoirse Ronan killing it. Greta Gerwig movie. So, we have some stuff to talk about there. Murder on the Orient Express comes out. Huge blockbuster cast. I love that book, so I'll probably go see that regardless of what people say about it.
How far are you on Stranger Things?
I've seen 6 episodes. I'm planning to wrap it up ASAP. So would you like to do a full season discussion next week?
Yeah, man. It happened where we sat down on Sunday and we just saw 5 in a row. It was like it just happened, and we were I was like, I need to stop because I can't watch the whole season from episodes 4 through 9 in one sitting. So
I hear you. Yeah, at least break it up in like 3 chunks, as we said last week. I mean, we got to chime in on Mr. Robot at some point.
I'm still an episode behind, but yeah, it's really good this season. We should probably maybe we'll do Taylor, catch up on some TV, and that will give me, because I'm not gonna be able to get to the movies this weekend for sure. It'll give me some time to get to see those movies that are out.
In general, I endorse MoviePass. My first experience was 100% painless. So if you're on the fence, you can check out our MoviePass breakout where we explain the whole thing. But I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap it up there, but we love you guys. We'll see you next week, and tweet at us if you want to talk about anything on the pod. Peace out.